Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and the Salesology prospecting method. And I am also known as the queen of cold calling. So today, my very special guest is Jonathan Salk. He is the CEO of CORFAC International. And Jonathan has been an association, not-for-profit executive for almost 40 years. He's been the CEO of CORFAC International for almost 9 years. And CORFAC is a global commercial real estate network with 70 offices around the world. And before CORFAC, Jonathan spent 4 years with the National Association of Realtors and over 18 years with the CCIM Institute. And he began his career with 7 years at the American Public Works Association. So welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me, Wendy.
I am really happy that you are here. And I know that when you and I were first talking about that you would come and be interviewed on this podcast, you said, well, I'm an association guy. And so the first question that I have for you is, how did an association guy end up in real estate, specifically commercial real estate? What's the backstory? How did you get there?
So at the risk of giving you too much information, when I got out of grad school, my dad kept nagging me to go to a place on the campus of the University of Chicago. Go stop in there. They got a lot of associations, different groups tied into what you might be interested in. And I did that. And I walked in and I talked to somebody and they said they weren't hiring, but they ended up introducing me to someone else in the building. And that evolved into my career at American Public Works Association. And my mentor there left and went to the CCIM Institute. And she recruited me over to join her, and the rest is history. I just found myself at CCIM for 18 and a half years, then NAR, and now CORFAC. So it's been a great ride. Commercial real estate is fun. It's always lively, very entrepreneurial, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Okay. So I think what I heard from you was that you knew you wanted to do something in association work. Is that correct?
So I got a graduate degree in public administration, which, you can go a lot of directions with that. But did I ever think that I'd be an association not-for-profit guy for 40 years almost? No. I mean, that wasn't on my radar, but that's how it evolved. And it's been a great career, and met a lot of wonderful people along the way.
Okay, well, that's a wonderful story. So before we go any further, what is CORFAC? For the benefit of our audience that perhaps do not know, what is CORFAC?
CORFAC is a commercial real estate network. So it's not unlike an NAI or Sperry Van Ness or CBRE. We've got 70 offices around the world. Most of those are in North America. We've got about 20 international. And people join CORFAC because they want to do deals together. They want to do business together. If someone's in Chicago and they're looking for, or they're working with a client who has some needs in Los Angeles, they know that they can contact the CORFAC office in LA and get the same type of service there that they would give their client in Chicago. And for those who know commercial real estate, CORFAC evolved out of the SIOR network, meaning There was a small group of SIOR sitting around an SIOR conference 35 years ago, and they said, we think there's room for another independent network. And the principles that CORFAC were founded on then have held true ever since. It's amazing that they have. You maintain your company name and your independence. You can do deals outside the network if you want. You don't pay a piece of the deal to the mothership, so to speak. All the deals stay between the two people working on the deal.
So why do your members join?
I think they join first because they know the reputation of CORFAC, and they know that the chances of doing deals with other CORFAC firms around the world is good. I think every bit as important is, especially as they are in the network for a while, they understand a lot of it's about best practices and sharing best practices, and knowing that they can blast something out to all CORFAC members, whether it's an issue, a problem, and they know that they'll get an answer within 24 hours, probably 8 or 10 answers from CORFAC members around the world. So I know it's probably an overused phrase, but the best practices is huge. It's, our network, our offices don't compete, which is, I think, fairly unusual in the commercial real estate network space. So they know that they're going to get an open and honest answer, whether it's via email, phone, or face-to-face.
Well, I love what you're saying about best practices, because certainly in sales, and there is this myth of the born salesperson, that somehow there are these people out there that just know what to do magically. However, some things work better than other things, and having a best practice that you are following or that you can share with another human being that to make them more successful, that goes such a long way. And so I'm wondering, when you use the phrase best practices, is that something you talk to your members about, or the members do they use that phrase, is really what I'm asking.
Absolutely. And it's funny, we're having our fall conference in about 5 weeks in Detroit. And, while our members always enjoy the programming we do at the conferences, we could have a big name keynote speaker, but they would much rather listen to a panel of their peers talk about, how do you succeed in a down market? Or what are you using in the technology area to help your business? I mean, one thing that has stood out for me, and I use it when I pitch potential new firms, is one of our founding members in LA said to me when I started at CORFAC, he uses CORFAC like his board of directors. And he knows that if he needs an answer to something, or just wants to see how people are doing things in different parts of the country or the world, he knows he can send out that note and he'll get several responses in a short period of time.
Well, that's very cool, because, my company, Salesology, historically, we've done a lot of work with folks in the commercial real estate space. Actually, we've done a lot of work with CORFAC members. And I know from personal experience that many of the people in commercial real estate, they're smart, they're independent, they're go-getters, they're doing their own thing, they want to do it their way. It's a little bit like herding cats. So,
I have no idea what you mean, Wendy.
Big surprise here. So how do you, as the CEO of CORFAC, because sales is all about being able to communicate and getting people to take action on things, like, how do you, as the CEO of CORFAC, communicate with all these hard-charging, independent just I'm going to do it my way, let's go kind of people, and get everybody on the same page.
So the same staff. So we're, just to let you know, CORFAC has 2.5 staff. So we like to think we're small but mighty. And it took us a while to figure out what worked and what didn't work in terms of communicating with our people around the world. And we survey them, we ask them. We have 2 conferences a year where we have committee meetings and executive and board meetings. So we're always getting feedback, but takes a while on a couple of different levels. What's too many emails? What's too few emails? What's too many social media posts? What's too few, to kind of get a sense of what's important to them. And I think we've gotten a pretty good handle on that as a staff. And that's always evolving because things change of what interests people the most. But it's also, you also kind of figure out, so the principals of the firms, they're going to like this information and they're going to give you this answer. And the marketing people in the firms are going to like this information and they're going to give you this answer. So it's also figuring out how to target the right people within the firms to get the answers you need and the information. And we've grown learning that. And we try to do monthly Zoom calls on different topics, whether it's an economist or whether it's a best practice or whether it's a topic that's focused on retail or industrial or what have you. So we mix it up pretty good. And our, CORFAC's roots are in office and industrial, but that said, our retail presence has probably doubled in the last 10 years. So we're just seeing, while our firms were mostly all full service, now it's expanding into, property management and land and development and other things outside the normal food groups.
All right. So we're going to pause now for a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, I'm going to hold Jonathan's feet to the fire because I want to talk about creating engagement. It's it's one thing to hold monthly Zoom calls, but you have to get people to actually come to these Zoom calls or to take advantage of the conferences, the different benefits that you have available to people. But it doesn't do any good if they don't, one, know about it and two, partake. So that I'm going to hold your feet to the fire for that when we come back. Now we have a word from our sponsor, Salesology 3X Appointments. You know how frustrating and stressful it is when you leave every sales meeting wondering if your sales team knows how to sell because they're not selling and all you ever hear from them are excuses. They blame your marketing. They say you need to do more social media. And they say you need a new website. You know something's wrong. You don't quite know what it is. And you're even starting to wonder if it's you. You don't have a lot of options. You could fire them all and start from scratch, and that would be expensive. And you're really sick of waking up in the middle of the night wondering how to fix this. So imagine instead that you have an easy-to-use, replicable system that ensures that your team can easily schedule qualified appointments. And imagine that your team is excited and motivated. No more excuses, and you feel good. Salesology 3X Appointments can make that happen. If you're a business owner or a sales manager with an underperforming sales team, let's talk. Click on the link to my calendar in the show notes, schedule a time, and I look forward to meeting you. And we are back with my special guest, Jonathan Salk, who is the CEO of CORFAC International. So we've been talking, Jonathan, about herding cats. And you mentioned that you do monthly Zoom calls. You have different events for members. And so I'm curious how do you create engagement with these notoriously independent, fast-moving, uh, go my own way, do my own thing kind of people that are mostly who we see in the commercial real estate space? How do you create the engagement? How do you let them know what's going on and get them to actually participate in it?
Yeah, great question. And it goes back to 9 years ago, or almost 9 years ago, when we were trying to figure out what works best for our members and engagement. And I think it takes experience, getting to know the people, getting to know what turns them on, getting to know what they don't really care for. And you do that in a number of different ways. You do that in face-to-face conversations. One thing I think I should mention is we're a 501c6. We're a not-for-profit organization, which is very unusual in the commercial real estate network space. So we are like any good 501c6 not-for-profit. We have committees, and we have committees that focus on communications, which covers what should our next ads look like that we promote the network about. We have a professional development committee. What should we do? What conferences, what sessions should we do at our conferences, or what sessions should we do on our Zoom calls? We have an international committee. Talks about how do we, they're 5,000 miles away. How do we keep them engaged? So it's constantly asking our members what's important to them. And I think the engagement is 100% better than it was 5 years ago. And this is what I'm about to say is not a slap at previous firms that are no longer part of CORFAC, but we've seen some firm churn, so to speak, over the last few years of firms that have been around for a while and decided to leave for different reasons. And when we go talk to new firms, it's very exciting to see the enthusiasm. There's no baggage with them. They're ready to dive in. And to see them sending 2, 3, 4, 5 people to each conference or on a Zoom call is very exciting. So, and we know we have a diverse membership and their needs. So we're always trying to keep our finger on the pulse, whether it's face-to-face exchanges, whether it's those committee meetings, whether it's emails, and asking them, what do they want? So as I said earlier, we do that through conferences, through Zoom calls, through committee meetings, and I answered your question.
Okay. So I'm curious because I believe that I heard you say that you're getting a lot of new blood in, and the new member offices, there's more enthusiasm than perhaps there was in the past. And I'm wondering what you attribute that to. Is it the changes due to going through the pandemic, the economy? Like what old school versus new school? Like what do you think? What can you attribute that to?
So we lost a couple of firms that their CEOs retired. And those CEOs that were there were strong CORFAC supporters. The new people that took over didn't quite see the value of CORFAC like their predecessors. So one of the things that's probably the coolest thing for me to watch is when I started almost 9 years ago, and I love business development. Most of when we were going and looking for new firms was me or our leadership and others going out and hustling. And not that I don't do that anymore, but it's so much fun to watch how many firms are coming to us now that are interested. And I think part of that is, advertising we do or articles we get in magazines that people read, social media, what have you. But I think it says to me that those firms coming to us really want to get involved. And again, my comment earlier, not a slam at firms that have been around for a while and left. It's just it's just kind of a new mindset, I think, with the newer firms that, they've got to pay X amount every year to be part of CORFAC, and they're going to get the most out of it.
Do you think that your approach, since you said you really enjoy doing business development, then I have to ask you a business development question. Do you think, is that attributable perhaps to the conversations that you're having with them early on that are different from the conversations that you used to have? Has your business development approach, the way you talk about CORFAC, has that changed?
I don't know how it was done by my predecessors. But
over the past 9 years.
Yeah. So I'd say one of the things that CORFAC has always done, so if we get a firm that's interested in us, we'll get on a call. Used to be a phone call. Now it's on a Zoom call, and we talk it through and we say, hey, what'd you see? What's important to you? And we talk that through. And then if both sides, and joining CORFAC's got to be a fit for both sides. So, sometimes it doesn't work out, but most of the time it does. And one of the things we've always done is if a firm wants to move forward and we want to move forward, we take myself and 2 or 3 other people and we go visit that firm. And we sit down with them for a day and we talk about CORFAC and we talk about their office and their business and see their operation. We go to dinner with them. We want to touch and feel them. Would it be easy to get on a Zoom call and do that process that way? Yeah, it would be, but it's just not who we are. And getting to know them and getting them excited and letting them know all the resources available to them that come from CORFAC, yeah, I think that helps a lot.
The very first client that we ever had in commercial real estate was a man named Vincent Sheehan, who was opening a boutique commercial real estate, a tenant rep only, here in New York City. It's called New York State. And he hired me to work with all of his new brokers. And one day he sat them all down and he said, and of course this was before we were doing everything on Zoom, but he said, never done a deal with somebody if I haven't shaken their hand. And I think that's still really true today. There's something about that human being to human being connection that if you can be there in person, it's simply a lot stronger.
I'm going to date myself with this analogy, but there was an old United commercial where the guy walks into the boardroom with his staff and starts throwing airplane tickets down to his staff and goes, we've lost our touch, whatever it was. We need to go visit Bob in Pennsylvania and Sally in Phoenix. And it's just kind of who CORFAC is. And, when you go there and you sit down with people, they see what they're going to get. And one of the lines I always use is, one of the guys I do most of these trips with is a guy named Scott. And, we'll often if there's another CORFAC firm in that state, we might take someone from there. But, I always say these are the type of people you're going to see and meet and get to know throughout the network. They're just, and obviously I'm biased to CORFAC, but it's a great organization. There's not a lot of politics, a lot of independence for staff, and it's fun to see the way it operates.
Okay. So if someone in our audience wants to find out more about CORFAC, what should they do?
You can go to the CORFAC website, great stuff there.
Okay.
Or contact me directly at jonathan@corfac.com.
Okay. And we will post the CORFAC website, Jonathan's email address, and also Jonathan's LinkedIn profile. We will post that all in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this show, go to the show notes, click on the link. And so to finish today, you've been listening to Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders. And if you have found value in listening to today's podcast with our special guest, Jonathan Salk, who is the CEO of CORFAC International, then please think about one business leader, one sales leader, someone that you know that you believe might also find value in listening to today's podcast. And please do share the link with them. And until we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.